This is Indie Fireside, Episode 3 by Sir Vance. You've been knighted, if you didn't know.
Oh, well, that is an honor that I did not realize I had received.
Congratulations. And I'll let Vance take it away from here.
All right. Oh, that was a great time for my voice to suddenly crack there. So, welcome to Indie Fireside, where we discuss indie games, the good, the bad, everything in between, no holds barred. I was talking to someone at GDC recently about, and they were telling me about how game discussion podcasts and whatnot rarely say anything bad, and so I had to point out that he should definitely check out this one, because we don't go around trying to say bad stuff, but we don't pull any punches either. You know, we say good things, we say bad things, what could use some work, what was done well. If you would like to join in, as Josh said, on the voice chat, I would love that. I'm not really big on talking to myself, but I do it when I have to. So if you would like to come in and chat with me on voice, I'd love to have you do that. Otherwise, you can certainly type into the chat box on Twitch here, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. If you type into Discord, I probably won't see it because I can't look at everything at once. But if you want to join in on the voice, then you should join the Discord. And wouldn't help to let me know here too, so we can get you on the stream. All right, so today we are talking about Nihilumbra, which I assume is how you pronounce that. The other way might be Nihilumbra, but it makes me think of nihilism, right? So I think Nihilumbra is how I would pronounce it. So this is a puzzle platformer game with some interesting mechanics. If anyone, I'll wait for a second. I'll see if anybody in chat wants to say anything. We usually start off the show by saying what is good about the game. What did we like about the game? We hold off the negative till later. It's always good to start on a bright, sunny note. So if anybody in chat, I'll give it a second for the stream to catch up and give you some time to type. See if you have anything to say, because I usually turn it over to other people before I say my piece. So feel free to chime in if you have anything to say. What was really good, well done about Nihilumbra for those who have played it? And suppose I will sit here playing with my beard and see if anybody answers. Maybe if I stare at you, somebody will type something. I don't know if that worked. Guess we'll see in a second. Controls. Yes, the controls were very well done. Yes, I agree. I think, in my opinion, for a platformer game, the way that I know that the controls are well done is because I don't notice them, right? If I notice the controls, then there's something off, right? I didn't have to think about it. I just kind of, after a while, started just instinctively pressing the right buttons, so they were certainly set up right. And there are two ways to jump, of course, by pressing up and space, and so I think whichever you prefer, that was a good decision to have, because some people would naturally press space, some people would naturally press up, and the controls were responsive. I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like I was controlling a character. I felt like, the character was an extension of me. So just very nicely done with the controls, both the layout of the controls and the responsiveness of the controls. Completely agree with that. I suppose I will go on to my things. The art was very good, very well done. I think that's one of the shining parts of this game, and the music. That's what the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, the art and the music created a really beautiful atmosphere to play inside of. It's sort of like an art museum of sorts, playing this game, especially the first part of it. I do have some notes here about what I should talk about, or at least what I liked it. Yes, and Josh says, the story was clear without hitting you over the head. Yes, it was certainly clear. That is true. Yeah, there was not, it wasn't overly, convoluted or anything, but it progressed towards something. And unlike inside, he said. So, yeah, that was very nice. So, yeah. Okay, so so one of the things that I definitely want to talk about is the drawing mechanic, which is obviously the main point of the game, right? It's kind of the thing that the game has. Of course, it has nice art and has nice music. It's a great atmospheric game, but yeah, I think the reason that you would play this game, probably I would imagine the reason they made this game is this really cool drawing, painting on, and changing the properties of platforms in that manner. And I loved it. I thought that was a very, very interesting idea, and it really brought out the possibility to make you have to think, especially once you have all the colors. Right? It really makes you think about how you're going to do things, because you're not walking into a screen and then there's a set number of things. But you have to actually, think about, okay, where can I put the things that are at my disposal? I can paint on any of these surfaces. And so I like games that you have to think about. I like, being challenged to think about things in interesting ways, which the game certainly did after you got out of the story mode. And I'll talk about that a bit later. But right, yes, it helped separate this from others that would be comparable, like Limbo and others like that, right? Yes. So that was a very interesting part of the game, which I imagine was kind of, I'm imagining that the devs, when they were sitting around, like when the gem of this idea came up, that's probably the first thing that they came up with, right? They probably said, oh, this cool mechanic, we have no idea what else we're going to do, but this is what we're going to make a game about. I would imagine that that's how this game came to be. It probably was built out of that mechanic. So on the story mode, I like that it spaces out the colors. So you have one color to start, or I guess you have none to start, right? And then you get one pretty early on, the ice blue color. And then you have to use that, and then you get another one, and then you have to use the two, and then you get another one. So it builds very nicely upon itself by introducing each of the colors, rather than just if it just gave you the whole palette right away. I think it would be a bit overwhelming, right? So I like that it introduced the colors that way. And the other good thing I was going to say about the game is that the what they call the void mode, which is the mode that you play after the story mode, is also really, really enjoyable. In fact, that's my favorite part of the game. I kind of consider that to be the game. Like the story mode to me was kind of like an introduction to the game. That's how I felt about it. It's like this is kind of an introduction to the game, and then here's the real game. So I got most of the way through the void mode. As some of you may know, I was only here for half of the month this month, and then I was in San Francisco for 2 weeks. So, and I was far too busy in San Francisco, didn't get any playtime there, but I did get most of the way through the entire void mode. I got the last one I did was world 2 of the city, and the city is the last world. So at least I assume it is in the story mode. So I did not get, I think there's like 4 more ones, but I got through all of the worlds and 2 of the city ones. So I got almost all the way through the void mode. It was fun enough that I just continued playing. I was hoping I'd get all the way through it, but there's one on the city part 3 that I have not figured out how to get past yet. There were some tricky ones before that, but this one, man, I can't figure it out. I will one day. And if you know me, you know I refuse to look up walkthroughs or videos when I'm playing a game. I refuse. I will not do it. So either I will solve this puzzle, or I will be stuck here for the rest of my life, continually going back to this game periodically and trying to beat that level. Those are my only 2 options. I do not look up walkthroughs. I'm a very stubborn, pig-headed human being. So the void mode was very, very fun. I enjoyed that a whole lot. So anyone else? That's kind of my list of particularly great things about this game. If anyone else has anything to add in before we move on, I'll just take a sip of Coke here and wait a minute. Okay, I think that's waiting enough. So let's get to the parts. Okay, so Josh mentioned the story, and I agree that the story was not bad. I did not think it was particularly good, which is why I'm talking about it right now, because this isn't in the bad category. I'll get to the bad category. I wouldn't put the story into the good category. That's my personal feeling on it. I think the story is in kind of the, yeah, it's okay. It was kind of clearly kind of just tacked on to a beautiful, they had a beautiful atmospheric game with great art, great music, great mechanics, great controls, and then the story, to me, so-so. I thought that it wasn't bad. It wasn't distracting, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't bad. I thought it could have been deeper, but that's my personal opinion on it. It's a little bit predictable. I thought from the very beginning, oh, okay, he's going to, once you found out about the colors, I kind of already predicted from the very beginning what was going to happen. He's going to find all these colors, and then he won't be empty anymore, and that kind of thing. I kind of, already knew where it was going. But in any case, it was decent enough to kind of just guide us through the rest of the great things. It was kind of like The Voice, that you wear those headphones in an art gallery and walk around, and the voice is telling you about things. It's not that the voice is particularly interesting, you're really there to see the art, but it kind of guides you a little bit, right? That's how I kind of felt about the story in the story mode. So yeah, that's not in the bad category. That's why that's in the gray category for me. How would I make the story better, Josh asks. Well, first of all, let me say I'm not entirely sure that it needs to be better. And that's why it's not in the bad category, is because I'm not entirely sure that it needs to be better. I think that it kind of works for what it is. If I were to try to make it better, though, I guess I would have a bit more twists and turns in the story, because as it is, it kind of is just it progresses, the same thing happens, the world is destroyed, next thing, same thing happens, the world is destroyed. There's no arc to the story, really. There's sort of a climax, but it's really just kind of the same thing happening over and over in different worlds. And the things that are interesting in the different worlds are the new monsters that are introduced, right, which is mechanics, it's gameplay, not story. And the new colors that are introduced, that kind of thing, and not so much the story. The story is just kind of the same thing. Yeah, Josh says varied consequences, yes. Maybe even, multiple endings, a couple different endings. Like you can get to the end and you can decide whether to sacrifice yourself to save the world or to not. Because, the whole thing of this game is it's saying, well, you are surviving at the cost of the world. And so it would be pretty interesting if it gave you that ethical choice at some point. Do you want to continue? Give me a choice. At this point, as the game stands, there is no choice. You either stop playing the game or you continue destroying worlds. Mass Effect 3. Yes. So, yeah. I guess speaking of the story, we'll mention the voice acting. I think the voice acting was good. It was kind of he was definitely did a good job. It was kind of weird at times because he occasionally, I think 2 or 3 times, said something that was different than the text said. And one of those times was at the very end. It seems like they could have looked more closely, because at the very end it says, the text says, and meet your fate, and the voice says, and meet your faith, which doesn't make any sense. So I don't think that they maybe noticed that when they were putting the voice acting in, but it's obviously supposed to be fate, but and there were a couple other times when the voice acting didn't match the words, but for the most part, I don't know where they come from, and yes, that's a lot of times when you see things like that, it's possibly due to translation issues, right? It's not the original language that it was written in, not the original language the voiceover was recorded in, or something like that. So it might be a secondary person or middleman involved in that process, which complicates issues. Yeah, but I don't know where they're from, actually. If anybody does, feel free to pipe in. So yeah, but other than that, I thought the voice acting was good. Did a good job on it. Let's see. Okay. There isn't a lot that is just really bad about this game, so I don't have a whole lot to say about the on the bad side. But I think one of the things is that the story mode, which is fairly short, I don't remember exactly how long, but it didn't take me that long to get through the story mode. And at times, I think it could benefit from being just a little more challenging. Now, the void mode is challenging. So that exists, so you don't have to worry about the game being too easy, because when you finish the story mode, the void mode is definitely challenging. But I thought that the story mode could have benefited from being slightly more challenging. I will certainly say that if the void mode did not exist, I would have been very disappointed in the challenge level in this game. Pretty substantially disappointed, because it was just, the solutions to the puzzles in the story mode was just very, very easy all the time. It's like pretty much like children's game easy, with the maybe possible exception of like 2 or 3 times there was something that you might have to think about for a minute or so. But for the most part, it was just, so straightforward and so obvious. I think at times I kind of felt a little patronized by it, right? I don't know that I agree that they were focused on narrative. I think that, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're focused on, because I haven't talked to them about it. But I think the narrative was so simple that I find it a hard time that they were really focused that much on narrative. I think, in my opinion, this is only what I think. I think that they were focused on, presenting the art. It seemed like an art gallery to me. The art was great, the music was great, it had a great atmosphere. It seemed like the atmosphere was more the point than the story to me, than the narrative. So I think that that's what they were kind of focused on, just providing an experience, right? To experience this environment. At least that's what I would guess. And they did a good job, of course, and the mechanics, of course, were great in it, and all of that kind of thing. I just kind of wish that it was a little bit more challenging. But of course, I realized that the story mode isn't going to be as challenging as the later mode. But that's, like I said, there's not that much bad about this game, so that's not even really a bad point either, especially since the void mode exists and has quite a few levels that are challenging. So that's not even a bad point of this game either. It's hard to find bad points of this game. I'm working hard. To find the bad points. I don't know. That's pretty much most of what I have to say about it. Okay. Scale of 1 to 10, Josh says, how much fun did I have? I would say, and I'll break this into 2 parts, I would say on the story mode, the story mode, well, let's pretend that the story mode was the entire game, right? If that were the case, in the story mode, I would give this game maybe and you have to realize that on scales of 1 to 10, I always use the entire scale. I'm not one of those people who rates everything from 7 to 10. So I would say maybe this game is like about a 5 in story mode. But void mode is 8 or 9. It definitely fun, recommended, well worth your time to play. And the story mode, so on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say, yeah, it depends on your taste in games, as Josh says as well. Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say like anything, less than 5 is bad, right? Anything more than 5 is good. I would put the story mode just on a 5 for my personal taste. So it's not good or bad. It's not a waste of your time or anything. It's a beautiful environment and experience to walk through. But I think when the game gets really fun is when you switch over to the void mode, which unlocks after the story mode and has quite a few levels. When I first saw void mode, I didn't know that it was so substantial. I thought, okay, these are just a few add-on levels that they're just gonna kind of try to placate me with a few more levels. But actually, it's quite substantial. There are quite a few levels in the void mode. quite a few. So it certainly takes a lot longer to get through the void mode than the story mode. So Josh asks me, would I want a sequel? Well, as soon as I get through all of these void mode levels, I'd maybe want some more of those, or some more. Yeah, a sequel would be nice. Maybe introducing some different mechanics, right, that you couldn't do just by adding in more levels to the void mode on this one, and some new level designs, which the void mode reuses the story level designs for the most part, and just puts more different puzzles in them. But they are substantially more challenging. So it's not exactly, it's not the same level design, but just the same level design, basically. You know what I'm saying, right? Okay. But yeah, I could definitely see the benefit of a sequel. I could see that they could take this in some interesting directions. And like I said, personally, I wouldn't be buying it for a sequel to the story by any means. I would be buying it for a sequel to the gameplay, see what kinds of new interesting kinds of gameplay they can come up with using this idea with the painted environments, the painted floor platforms, that's what I meant to say, painting platforms and all that kind of stuff. So it is a really unique idea, and they did just a really good job of designing a lot of the puzzles, especially in the void mode. Some stuff that you really have to think about to get through. So yeah, I would say yes on that. Yeah, it runs a little short, this discussion, when there's only one person discussing. And thank you, Josh, for throwing some things out there for me to talk about as well. Certainly appreciate that. I guess that's pretty much okay. Here, in what way do you connect with the character? Has your life been affected when you become Nihilumbra? I don't think that I connected with the character personally. Yeah, I really didn't. And of course, I keep saying this over and over, is that this is only my personal opinion. I felt the story was a little flat, so I didn't, yeah, the story was a little shallow. So I didn't really feel like there was a character arc. It was just kind of doing the same thing over and over, going through a level, destroying it, going through a level, destroying it. I mean, you were getting colors, and then at the end, there's the big decision that you don't even get to make because the game makes it for you. Yeah, I would say that, in my opinion, that the character was a little shallow, and and the story was a little shallow for me to connect too much with the character. But that wasn't a bad thing, because I enjoyed everything else about the game and was having a good time regardless of that. I didn't really come into it expecting a narrative game. I came in it expecting a puzzle platformer, which was good. They delivered on that. So, and hire Josh. Yeah, if they made a new IP, what would I like to see? I don't know. I'd like to see something that is creative and unique, like this game was. if I said what I'd like to see, then it's probably not all that creative and unique, because I'm not a player of puzzle platformers. So anything that I come up with right on the tip of my head right now about a puzzle platformer is probably not that creative or unique. I'm not a puzzle platform player, so since I haven't been sitting around thinking of ideas for puzzle platformers, I don't know. I would like to, I guess I'd like to see something, you know, that is as innovative as this game was, and look forward to seeing what it is when they come out with it. I guess that's the only way I can answer that question. Ah, Twitch integration, where the audience can draw for you. Oh my god, that is a recipe for trolling right there, I would say. Yes. Oh my. I mean, it probably would go pretty big on Twitch, I guess, if you did that. I don't think there is such a thing on Twitch that you could integrate, but maybe some sort of integration where your viewers could get their own client and connect with your game or something like that. Yeah, you could control, because if each one had their own like sort of drawing client that just connected to a main game, you could control who connects to you. So that could, because if there was a possible way to just do it to anybody who joins Twitch, which I'm sure there wouldn't be, because I don't think it's remotely possible the way Twitch works right now. But that would be absolutely terrible idea. Yeah, the drawing mechanic is what I'm talking about. I don't think that they have the sensitivity built into their player to, you know, to be able to drag and draw on it. But I mean, yeah, I would be pretty sure that that's not possible the way Twitch is currently programmed. Okay, so so that's the wrap up on that. It was a very enjoyable game. To summarize, great art, great music, great mechanics, great controls. I thought its story was a little shallow, and that's my take on this game. I do recommend it, especially if you are a puzzle platform player, which like I said, I'm not even that much of a puzzle platform player, and I thought this game was very enjoyable for me. A lot of it is the atmosphere, and the puzzles are incredibly well designed once you get to the void mode. So if you're a hardcore puzzle platform player, don't get discouraged going through the story mode, because your challenge will await you. And yeah, that's it for this. Pick up Nihilumbra and give it a shot for yourself. It's a very good game. So thanks for joining us on Indie Fireside. Be on the lookout on the Discord for the announcement for next month, which I guess I'm going to be announcing tomorrow or the next day, since it is already the end of this month. So we'll be announcing the game for the next month. Everyone is always welcome to join into the chat whenever they want to. So if you pick up the next game and play it, you can come on to the stream and chat with me and other people, hopefully, on the voice chat. And so that's me signing off for Indie Fireside. Thank you very much for joining us.